Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? That's great. Anyways, I'm gonna play some chess. I don't know if this will be entertaining or not, but I like to log my progress, at least in video format. Gonna play on chess.com, 1300, so really don't expect good games. Just expect memes, I suppose. Let's play. Rapid. 1510. Alright. Playing black. Let's see what they're gonna play. Alright, so they're gonna abort the game. There is like almost 100-point rating difference, so maybe that's why. Alright. I'm just gonna open knight f3, the ready opening. I enjoy the ready opening and its adaptability. d5. Um, let's just go d4. Let's see what he does. All right, knight c6. Just knight c3. Develop our knight. Knight f6. Oh, yes, bishop g5. Feels good. Just attack the knight. Possibly pin it to the queen. Or at least, alright. I'm just gonna go bishop h4. Still pinning. Now, just gonna go e3. Just open that diagonal for my light squared bishop. He's gonna block my bishop from going to b5, but that's fine. At this point, I'll just go bishop to e2, I think, and castle. I'm up in development. I'm feeling fairly confident in this game. I could go knight to e5, and then if knight takes, pawn takes, d-pawn takes e5, we're gonna attack the knight. He'll have to move his knight somewhere, probably forward, or maybe, yeah, forward, and then to g4. And then I could take his dark squared bishop. Black has a better dark squared bishop. That's Black's best minor piece is the dark squared bishop, so that would be advantageous to me. But I don't know how I like doubling pawns for that. And also, I just don't want his knight to be developing inwards. Actually, after I do knight f5, knight e5, he can't do knight g4 because bishop takes. After bishop takes the pawn naturally, then he has to take with queen, and then I take his knight. So he would have to go back somewhere, so I think this is just good for me. Knight e5. Seems sound all around. Hey, that rhymed. Let's see what he does. I'm assuming he doesn't take e5, though. It's just a... But that just... Oh, well... Alright. Let's see. If it all goes as planned. He's probably gonna... Alright, yeah. That's what I figured. It's also attacking the pawn. I think I'm gonna go takes and f4 seems best just to protect the pawn. It also blocks his queen from really coming in. He could check me, but it just isn't good for him. So yeah. Start attacking on the king side, opening, well, not really opening diagonals. I suppose now this bishop, I don't have to worry about the pawn ever blocking its way. Let's see what he does. But look at this knight. It's just blocking his bishop. He's gonna have to push this pawn to develop this bishop and castle kingside. I think what I'm gonna do is probably queen. Maybe yeah, queen to d3, then castle queenside, and just start attacking on the king side is probably best at this point. Okay, so he's gonna move his knight there, so he can still. Now he can develop his bishop to d7, but he's moved his knight so many times. He's just moving the same pieces. Isn't looking good, though. I don't know. It's not like I have too great of a position. We'll just go. I'm just gonna go b3. I'm just gonna block his knight from coming in, I think. Though I guess that lets him. That it allows queen a3, which isn't great. Do I even castle my king? I'm sure I do. We could go. We're taking a long. I am taking a long time. I guess. You know what? Actually, never mind. I am castling kingside. Never mind. Castling kingside is the way to go. I didn't want to castle kingside because my f pawn got pushed, so I figured it was weak. But now that I'm looking at it some more, I don't think so as much. Now. Bishop here, yeah, bishop d3. He probably will push g6, which wouldn't be a great move for him, but maybe he won't. Maybe he'll go. I mean, what am I really threatening with this move? I'm threatening some bishop h7 nonsense. If I could ever Greek gift him at some point. I also like to do a rook lift maybe, but maybe I'll actually do bishop to h5. Bishop h5, and then if he does push g6, I have queen g4, which will pin the pawn to the king. That'd be really good for me. I think this is the most aggressive way of going about it. I don't know if it's necessarily the best way of going about it, but it's certainly going to attack. Taking a long time for all these moves, but it's important to play slow games. I think that's how you improve the best. Improve the quickest, I mean. Alright. I don't know if queen g4 is necessarily good now. Just because my bishop will be locked. But rook f3 isn't any better, so I guess rook f3 does have some good things about it. Yeah, maybe I will go rook f3. In fact, maybe I'll even go a3, and then b4 at some point. Who knows? Or maybe, yeah. I think this is just how you attack. I don't know, but the problem is I always do these attacks and they always fail. And the reason they always fail is because I don't calculate fully the defense my opponent has, but it just seems so good for me. I can't imagine a life where this is bad. I'm assuming what he's gonna do is king h8, and then I'm gonna do rook f3. He's gonna push g6, and I'm gonna take g6 with my bishop. He's gonna take with his but maybe it's not, because then he's gonna get his queen in the game. So maybe I'll just, after rook f3, after king h8, I'll after he pushes g6, I'll just go rook g3. And then that's just bad for him. He can't take my bishop, because then I would checkmate him on g7 just to... Oh, okay, so he's doing this. Probably actually smart. Queen to g6 fails to bishop to e8. So can't do that. I can en passant. he could take with rook or queen. Both are good for him. This might have actually been a bad idea for me. I might, it's pretty good for him right now, I would say. I don't really have any moves for my queen. This is what I get for not thinking things through, not thinking my opponent's response is clear. Of course, F5 was always an option. I just didn't look at it. But en passant is probably the thing I have to do right now. But it might blunder something. I don't know. It just seems like I'm getting he's getting a very strong attack here. But I'm going to en passant anyways. He's already got a defense for the G-pawn with the queen, so it's not like it can get much worse. I'm going to go rook F3. Just a nice rook lift, preparing a very strong attack. I feel as though these are always how these positions usually end up, is just me putting a strong attack on the king side while my opponent defends very well, because I don't know if it's best to do an attack on the king side. This is why I need to do more opening prep. Sorry if I've been talking so much, but I don't know. Talking so fast. I was thinking right now he's probably going to push e5 to attack my queen, but after I push f5, what does it really do for him? I feel like I just get to push my pawn for free. I don't think it's good for him at all. In fact, if he does, yeah, and then he would have to do bishop to d to c6 after. Well, never mind. I was thinking because then my knight could take his pawn on d5, but I just realized his knight was protecting his pawn on d5. If I could manage to get my bishop to f7 protected, I could totally checkmate him. You know? This is how this is chess for me, is I'm like, oh man, if I get this theoretical position, it's won. How do I reach that theoretical position? I don't know. Probably not. I won't reach it because it's terrible for black, and he would never let it happen. I underestimate my opponents too much, I notice. I honestly think if he pushes e5 after I push f5, and let's see, what would he do? Probably queen e6 isn't really, queen e6 blunders. Actually, I would just take his queen with, sorry, I should do this. But yeah, that wouldn't be a good idea at all. I guess bishop to e8 maybe? No, bishop e8 is okay. So he does do bishop e8, which, wow, he did bishop e8. That's incredible. If I take, he probably will take with his rook, I would assume, just so that way the queen is always protecting the pawn. It also doubles up the rook and the queen on the e file down the middle of the board, which you can't complain with that. I think I'm just gonna do rook to g3. If he takes, I'll just take with my queen on h5. Yeah, if he takes my bishop, I'll take with my queen. What would he do? And then afterwards, I think rook to d1 for me later on. I don't know what he's going to do. Probably something. But I think this is good. It's just a nice development move. At least I'm not slowing down the attack. I'd like to think these moves are well thought out, but I'm sure there are plenty of players out there looking at this like, what are you doing? It's obvious. Don't you know the the tactic in this position? No, I don't. I don't remember. I'm sorry. Yeah, rook to d1 looks best for me later on, just because that's a double attack on the d5 pawn. Also, if I manage to get rid of it, that's just a rook on an open file. Beautiful, beautiful rook. And if he ever does push e5, I would take with the rook. Of course, he wouldn't push e5. He would never push e5 in that position because then he'd just be losing a pawn. Sorry. Yeah, he would never do that. I would take with the rook though, because after takes knight, after takes with knight. Wow, messing up these arrows. After he takes with knight, I would take with my knight, forking the queen and the rook, but he wouldn't do that. What? I guess G5 might be a good move, honestly. Actually, never mind. G5 blunders the game immediately. He would be just lost. After G5, I would just do takes, right? What does he do after that? I'm threatening a discovered check here. I guess rook here, but then I would take with bishop. So I think right now he's just looking at taking bishop. I'd assume is what he's looking at. I should be thinking of my opponent's plans while he's making his move. My opponent is probably thinking what to do after bishop takes h5 and queen takes bishop on h5. How do you progress in that position? Or what do you do? Or maybe he was just looking at tactics. He did it. So I kind of wasted a lot of time looking up, just looking at lines that were advantageous for me for some reason. So I think queen takes is probably best. Well, because I don't really see a tactic here. Actually, yeah, no. All right, I'll take. This is good still. I mean, it's getting another attacker on the d5 pawn. So he's doubling his rooks here. I'm not worried at all because this is just good for me. He's probably going to push d4 is what I'm assuming he's threatening. So rook d1 I think just prevents everything. Then he's probably going to do knight to c4 afterwards, just threatening knight to b2, attacking my rook. Then I'm probably going to have to... I would just attack, I suppose. If he does do knight b2, I can just push my rook up. Then he would go back, and then... I mean... I would go rook. Well, actually, maybe I would just go rook d4 immediately. It's probably best afterwards. So yeah, I think it's just important that I get my pieces active right now. I don't know if there's really much I can do when it comes to tactics. I'm not the best at tactics. I was thinking I would do videos on chess games, me doing tactic puzzles, and just me looking at opening theory, trying to figure out how to not blunder in the openings, because that is a struggle. Oh yeah, what am I thinking? Knight to c4 attacks the e4 pawn, which he doesn't see, or no, maybe he did. I mean, my rook is protecting the e4 pawn, so it's not like. Anything bad for him? I'm thinking really hard on this one because this looks really good for me. Pushing f5 looks really good. But yeah, I guess he does have rook takes. But then I would have queen g6 check. He would have to move his king back. It doesn't really matter. I don't have any other checks afterwards, really. I guess if he does... but no, it's not good for me. I'm thinking, maybe rook to d4 might be a good move. Can't really push f4. Maybe I'll go... I was just looking at rook takes g7. It just really doesn't, I don't think I get anywhere, even though it is interesting. I'm thinking actually queen to e5 might be best. He's probably going to push rook to f5. And then, well, I guess it's not best because I don't know what I would do after that, huh? If I could manage to get my knight in somewhere. Yeah, I don't know. This is a... I always have trouble with these positions sometimes, most of the time. Let's go. Let's just keep. I think this is the most aggressive play. It's probably not a good move, but you know he can't push g5, g6 now at the very least. So he's gonna just continue developing on the queen side. I think I'm gonna go rook f1. It just seems like a waste because I already put my rook on d1, so it's kind of like, oh, I just admitted that I made a mistake. But maybe that's what I have to do right now. Sorry. I guess that's best. I can't really see how else I would progress in this position. Maybe king h1, just so knight to g1, and then knight to f3, and then I could do the same thing. So, I don't know. It's probably better just because my knight's going to be a little more active. So, let's do it. I'm gonna, and then, yeah, h1, push the g pawn, actually. That's another idea I should have looked at, pushing the g pawn. I'm just sort of running out of time. My opponent has a lot more time than me. But yeah, g4, g5 is probably actually a big threat in this position because he can't take with the pawn because the pawn's pinned, so I'm attacking the king. What does he do with the king? I guess he could, I mean, what does he do with the rook? I guess rook to f5. Yeah, I mean, rook to e7, same thing. Rook to f5, I was thinking just because it pins the pawn to the queen. But then I get g6. And that's actually really strong. So I guess he can't go rook to f7. So he has to go rook to e5, then g6. And then after he goes like king to h8 or king to g8, probably not king to h8. I think that would be too much. Yeah, and if he goes knight to b2, that's just a blunder because rook to b1 attacking the knight. Where can the knight move? Nowhere. Oh, oh wait, no, this is fine. This is fine. I remembered, right. My rook protects e3. I keep thinking this is a blundered pawn, but no, rook e3. Yes. All right. Well, what's the next move? Can't move his knight here. He can move his knight back to any of those squares. Probably knight to d6, I would assume, is his best move. I'm probably going to push g4. Maybe, yeah, because in the future, if I have my knight on g3, and if I move my queen after all that nonsense we talked about pushing g6, because the rook would be here. So if I go queen to g4 and my rook's on g3. So he's going to push the rook immediately, which, you know, all right. So, yes, queen to g4. Not worried. He might be thinking something along the line. Okay, no. All right. Now, knight to g3 isn't amazing. I guess it is. It attacks his rook. Where does he has to move his rook back. And then I'm going to get, so he moves rook back there. I would get knight to h5. And that's attacking a lot of things. That's, well, but it is a knight on the rim, which is dim. But what else do I really have in this position? I just don't. I have time, I suppose, to think. It's just I don't want to waste it all. Okay, so it gives me this, which lets me do knight to h5 with tempo because I'm attacking his rook. And then I get queen to, I get rook to g3, and then and then maybe rook, and then I have queen to g6. It just doesn't look as good for him anymore. And then I can retreat my queen back to d3. My knight and my rook are going to be attacking his g-pawn. It's questionable. I don't know exactly. But he's been playing pretty well, or I've been playing very ineffectively. But I feel like this has been a good game all around. It's been really enjoyable. He might, I guess, if he's really bold, maybe he'll go knight to e4. Because I'm just thinking, after knight takes f6, he might have some tactic. And if I ever move my king to h1, that's lost for me. And I don't know, it just adds a lot of pressure. I'm assuming first you move the rook back and then you do this, or you move the rook. Well, I guess rook to f5 is still fine, and then you move the knight in. So he has a lot of attacking chances too. I would say. He even has, I guess he has knight to c3, which attacks my a1 pawn, a2 pawn as well. So that's pretty annoying. But yeah. So, okay, he moves his rook back there, which I didn't feel like was the best move, but that's fine. I felt like rook to f5 was better, but we're going to just move our rook back to g3. Okay, he does do this knight move. Yes. And now actually this is terrible for me. I don't know why I did that. I should have seen, I talked about knight e4 too. You all heard me. And I knew it was also attacking this g3 square. That's why I was like, oh, thank goodness I moved the queen. Yet I moved the rook right into there. So that was silly of me. I guess rook back to h3, right? Or maybe rook to f3. Nah. Yeah, let's go rook to f3. Just protect the f2 square, I guess. Even though it doesn't need protecting. But I feel like it's the better of it's the better move. He's gonna go knight to c3. I'm like almost certain of it. Okay, goes knight there. Interesting stuff. Oh my goodness, I had queen to g6 check. I had queen to g6 check. What was I thinking? Now I take the knight and check, definitely. He's gonna take with this, and then Back to rook g3, maybe. Okay, this is a lot of pressure on a pawn that isn't really going to help him at all. I'm thinking rook to e4, rook to b5. He pushes rook to b4, rook, and then b5. Pawn to... I'm gonna start opening this position with c4. It might not be good, but it's fascinating. Okay. I'm glad my opponent has also been taking a long time to think. It's made this game a lot more challenging. Now I'm probably losing a pawn. We're gonna do f5. Alright, we get queen g6 check. Then it'd be a would be a perpetual. Yeah, I guess g4, g5. I mean, who cares about these attacks on the queen side, because I'm just gonna keep pushing, I guess. Yeah, I guess this comes with an attack on my rook, but I was thinking rook to f3, f1, and I'm still fine. It doesn't matter about this. I'm not too worried about this. It's gonna take a bit for his pawns to get in here. But right now I'm just attacking and attacking and attacking, and I don't think it's good for him. Especially rook to h3, g5. If takes, I'm gonna takes, and but then rook back and he's fine. But this is after rook f1, because if this, then it's different. Rook to f1's also just good, just because it gives me rook to h3. Earlier, I was also thinking rook to d4 to rook to h4, but I think g5 is better. So he's protecting f7 with that move. I think rook to h4 is pretty crushing. Rook to f1 and g5. Maybe just g5 straight away even. Yeah, this is also a thing he can do. I don't have to trade if I don't want to. G6, H6. He might be winning at this point. I don't know. It's just, it's 4 against 2, I guess, here. So, it's pretty difficult. Maybe queens off the board could have been better, but I don't think so. Queens on the board makes it a lot more complicated. It lets the opponent make a lot more mistakes as well. I'm actually catching up on time, which is nice. Alright, rook to f1. Push g5 as planned. If queen takes... Who knows? He's still, I mean, he has queen to g5. And that is a forced trade of queens, it looks like. So. Yeah. But I'm not worried about it. I think this open file, he shouldn't have given it to me. This has been an interesting game, though, I think. I made those 2 moves instantly, but that's just because I felt like they were sort of obvious. You attack the pawn, but also you're claiming the open file, and then rook to f3, protecting the pawn because he attacked the pawn, but also I get rook to h3 later, which is threatening checkmate, actually, so he's going to have to move the rook at some point, and then I would just take. So he's going to attack the pawn twice. Is that even good for him? Yeah. Yeah, right. So if we get to this position, I'm losing. I can go rook to h3, but well, rook h to h3, rook f to h3. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I just take on g5. If he takes on e3, I take on e3. He takes on e3, I push b4. He goes rook b3, and I'm probably fine after f6. I don't even think b3 is necessary right now. I can just straight up go rook to f. I mean, just go straight to f6. I think these past pawns are just going to be too strong for him. He could go f7, and then I was thinking rook takes g7, king takes f6, rook g7 check, I mean. Yeah, king to f7, king takes f6, I mean, and then rook takes b7, which protects my b pawn as well. And then he'd probably go, yeah, king to g5. So it's actually not, like, great for me. But then I guess I have check. But then he goes here. So maybe I take with the pawn. Maybe that gives me the most winning chances. And then just push the h4, push the h pawn up the board, I guess. Could also be a strategy that might work. It's a difficult endgame for him, I think. That does not work because king takes g7 comes with check. If he goes f7, I mean f8. I have g5. And now I just push the h pawn up the board. Now his rook has no checks either. I'm assuming he takes b3, h4. What's his fastest pawn? d4. That doesn't do anything for him. h4. And just keep pushing. This is a interesting game. h4 and queen. Oh my lord! And the best way to lose a game is a mouse click. I love mouse clicks, man. Wow, 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 wow. 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 He has to go king to d6. I had rook e1 earlier because his pawn was on d3. This is so disappointing. It's the worst way to lose a game because nobody won, nobody wins. Nobody wins in this game because we all know it's tainted. The victory's completely tainted. But yeah, it's great. He won. But this sucks. This absolutely sucks. I had this and then rook to e1 and then what did he have? He had, who even knows? I even could have gone rook to d8 if I wanted to, I guess. But then I guess king to d7, so never mind. But yeah, rook to e1. This is so disappointing. That's 10 rating points. Oh well. Nothing to do. Let's look at the game report. I like to end my games with the game report. 50 moves. I think I missed like 14 wins and I probably blundered 20 times. So let's see. This is disappointing, but it's time to learn why we lost because it's better than knowing why you lost. Well, I was more accurate, so that's disappointing. All right. By the book. E3. I mean, this is up to preference. These are still opening lines. Castles here was actually better. Alright. Okay, this was an inaccuracy. They were saying B4. A4? Did we look at A4? I think I probably didn't. Alright. More inaccuracies ensue. This was a mistake. Oh yeah, see, it does say queen to b6 check that we were talking about is the best move. I'm already losing in this position, which surprises me. Felt like a winning position, but alright. Oh, that was a blunder. G4. I mean, this does not work. Sorry. Can't really take either, can you? Because then check. Oh, and then checkmate. So you can't take. Yeah, it is better. Why didn't I? Oh, wow. And I should have taken there, I guess. And then, oh, so I should have taken on D7, huh? I guess. It's probably actually the better move. And then, yeah, I blundered. I didn't want to do this move. I think everybody at home knows I didn't want to do this move. And it did blunder me the game, which really sucks. I would have really actually liked to... I'd like to win games, but oh well. And then, yeah, it all came too late. It all came too late. I guess I did have rook to rook here, but computer says it doesn't even work because rook to d5, yeah, blocks, and then what can you do? Nothing. You can take, and then it doesn't matter. After takes and check and takes and push and then takes and then rook, king here and then queen. So it's nothing. And then yeah, resign. It's mate in 6. Rook to h5. Wow. Rook to h5 is gonna haunt my dreams. I'm gonna have nightmares, but oh well, what happened? It happens. Mouseslips happen. I have to be more careful next time. And I didn't even play the best game ever, so I'm not too upset about it. It was a great game, and I messed up in the end. Alex RS deserved the win. I messed up, and he just continued to play solid throughout. I mean, well, we both made blunders and mistakes, but it's hard to tell why at this level. We can't quite figure out why. I'm gonna analyze them more deeply later. I might actually make a video on just analyzing maybe this game and the Lions. But yeah, that's it. Hope you have a good one, and see ya.